Well, hello, and welcome to this episode of Making Transitions and Creating Your Encore Life. This is where you can learn to do what you love, when you want, and where you want to do it. You can create and live your dream. And if you're ready to get started right away today, please contact me at lynn@lynnfrias.com. As always, thanks for listening. Well, today is episode 212, and this is entitled From Old to Bold: Leveraging Your Transferable Skills for a Career Reinvention, or really a reinvention of any kind. Now, I have used AI to help me with the research on that, so it's informed me, but all the words are basically what I think of doing. So, this whole idea of transferable skills, and really they're just what they sound like. They're skills that you would use no matter what kind of job you're doing. And some are hard skills, things like coding or data analysis, but some are also soft skills like communications and building relationships. And we'll talk a little bit about those as we go along. And I will include a list of 20 possible transferable skills. Now, each of us will have our own set. So these will just be things that you can use as examples. Transferable skills are things that really help us lead our lives. Now, you may look at them as very specific to what you've done in your career, um, but in many cases, these are skills that if you really stop to reflect on it, you've probably used them in a lot of areas of life, not just in your job. But now it's important that if you want to be doing something different in this phase of life, um, you need to see, okay, you are going to create value, you have value. So, how do we go about identifying those things and the ways that you'll help create value in this new theme of life? The first thing you always do is reflect on your experiences. I know a good friend, Mike Kim, he said, you should just start listing down some of the things that you've had success at in your career. And in his case, he was a chief marketing officer. So he said things like, well, I helped create marketing plans, or I helped teach people how to do this, or I helped solve difficult problems with marketing. And then what he did is he after he had that list, he went back and just kind of crossed off the words that specifically referred to his job and said, oh, I solve problems. I create relationships. I do different things. So I think it's a useful way to go about, thinking about what are your skills. So just list the things you've already done, but then consider I'll say the verbs or whatever, as opposed to just looking at how it connected to a particular job. So, for example, in my case, I did a fair amount of time working with people in difficult conversations. So does that, that was in the factory setting, but that applied to all kinds of things. It is applied as I've been in volunteer organizations. It's applied as when I've even in home settings. That's one of the things I probably noticed is, in fact, my wife has occasionally reminded me is, you know, Lynn, you have a lot of coaching skills, I know, but you don't always use them at home. So I think that's one thing too that we can fall into the trap of, that we can be very skillful at a particular behavior or something in a work setting, and then, in a sense, not be able to apply it in a setting away from work. So it's something to look at as you're going through there. I think the next thing you need to do is sort of then assess those skills and kind of map them out. So it's literally just, again, rewriting those skills, maybe stopping to give yourself a 1 through 5 rating on how good do you think you are compared to peers. Now, I will say the difficulty here is that you may not, what you have as a truly remarkable skill, you may not even recognize. You assume everybody can do this when in fact they can't. Again, going back to my, you know, what I found was being able to have difficult conversations. Many people, many times said, "Boy, I'm glad you were able to have that conversation, Lynn, because I never could have done that." So that's one of those things where I had done it enough that I wasn't really recognizing that it was somewhat unusual, maybe not entirely unique, but somewhat unusual. Now, the other thing you can also do is there are, in today's world, unbelievable online opportunities to, whether it be career sites or other, job hunting sites, you know, a lot of places where you can sit there and find out what your transferable skills are. Various personality tests can probably give you insights into it too. So that's one of those things where, you know, it's worthwhile spending some time that really reflects on, how you think about things and what you've done. The next thing I would suggest is you have to start thinking about how do you showcase those skills? How do you take those skills and, point them towards something you want to do in the future? It may be getting a new career in a field that's not the same as the one you were in. It may be you want to apply yourself in a nonprofit situation. It may be you want to start new relationships. Whatever those things are that you want to do, you need to start thinking, okay, go back to your list. How would I say that if I was applying that skill in this particular situation? So it's one of those things where you again, it's a conscious decision. You may be overwhelmed. Well, I don't know how to do this. I don't know anything about this job. I've never worked with a nonprofit before. But you've really, again, have that list in front of you and start thinking, okay, where would this apply in the work of say a nonprofit? Or where would this apply in this new career area I'm looking at? Or where would this apply in creating a remarkable new relationships? Those kinds of things. And then, you may find there's skills that will be needed if you want to go into a new career. And so maybe you need to either get new skills, and there's, ways to approach how do you develop those, but also maybe your transferable skills, you need to take them to a new level. So in the case, if I wanted to, talk about having difficult conversations, but all of a sudden I wanted to become a hostage negotiator. Okay, I could see where I need to really up the level of that skill set. I may have a lot there, but I probably need to intentionally get in there and say, okay, here's how I need to develop this skill of difficult conversations in the context of wanting to take a role as a hostage negotiator or some other role like that. Then you think of, okay, how do you leverage that as you make a career transition or any other type of transition? Um, it's one of those things where I think of it as bridging the gap. And you really need to, again, think of what you've done. You actually go back to those original line stories or statements you sent out saying, well, I did this successfully. I solved this complex problem in my marketing organization. And then you have to kind of start saying, okay, how does that fit if now I'm in a logistics organization? How can I use that story or that picture of my success in marketing and map it onto what would be very helpful in the logistics organization? So those are the things where you can really start to build your understanding, one, of yourself, but two, help translate your value statement into what's needed for your new role, whatever that might be in life. So we kind of went through a couple of these, statements about how you go about identifying and capturing and really highlighting your transferable skills. Now, for a few minutes, we'll just talk. I have a list of 20 possible transferable skills that I'm including in the show notes. And I'll just briefly touch on a few of those. So first one is an obvious one called leadership. You probably exhibited leadership in several different roles, even if you didn't have the official title of manager. I remember when I was working with people in the factory, we needed people to help become facilitators for a program. And so everybody said, well, no one's ever had that kind of leadership. And I said, no, let's talk to these people because I know they've gone out there and they've run softball teams. They've organized PTA functions. They've served in leadership roles in a variety of things in their life. We need to ask them about that and how did it work for them? Then there's pieces around problem solving. Again, uh, you have probably seen a lot of problems of one kind or another. So it's the idea of how do you approach problem solving? You have a way to do it, and you've probably found some success at that. Many people who just haven't seen as many problems as you have, they don't even know how to approach solving a problem. So this is something that's kind of, again, you may not even notice it, and it may be hard to describe until you kind of spend a little time just thinking it through. Then there's the area of strategic thinking, and sometimes we give that a bigger title than it really is, but it's the idea of to see the big picture. Again, many people as they're either in a single role or new to a role, they can't see the big picture. Whereas you, who have seen a lot of things happen, just in general, because you've been around a while, you can see things that, oh, hey, yeah, your first answer to this problem might be here, but if you took a step back and looked at it in a broader scale, that would probably not work well. So that's another thing, you've probably seen the big picture a lot in your life. And so you really are a strategic thinker. And it's just how would that apply in possibly a new setting? Conflict resolution is another one. Again, I mentioned that earlier in my experience, but I'm guessing, again, anybody who's had a life and been in life for a while have had things where there was disagreements or whatever, and maybe we've handled them poorly sometimes, maybe we've handled them better, but in many cases you'll be, when you're looking for a new role or a new place to be, there may be an organization doesn't know how to handle it at all, or there may be people who are, again, new in their careers that haven't really seen this happen. So again, conflict resolution, you think of it maybe in narrow terms, like the role that I had, but it's just getting things done. How do we have diverse opinions? How do we have different ideas? But in the end, how do we come together to get things done? So those are just a few of the ones in this list. Then I'll just, the final one, which is always one of my favorites, is the thing that I think people can bring as a transferable skill is what we call emotional intelligence, and that's knowing and understanding yourself and being able to moderate your own reactions to things, but it's also being able to understand others and their feelings and their what they're hoping to achieve or what they're hoping to avoid, and basically the ability to create new and good relationships. So it's one of those things where, again, you may feel you've been better or worse than that over time, but it's probably something you, at the very least, have had some experience and you have some awareness of, so you can get better at it. Well, with that, I want to thank you for joining this episode. Again, if you're interested in getting started right away, please contact me at lynn@lynnfrias.com. Or you can also go over to my website at lynnfrias.com. And there's all the episodes of the podcast and the blog posts. And you maybe sample a few things to see what you like. But also you can get on the email list over there, so you're aware of the new materials that I have coming out for you. So with that, again, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.